Details now emerging on the short seller raises serious questions on the motive. Meanwhile, cornered by the opposition, the government has assured probe. In an exclusive conversation with Times Now's Navika Kumar, Finance Minister has lashed out at the hypocrisy of the opposition and has said that if they believe Gautam Adani is a crony capitalist, why are they doing business with Gautam Adani? Nirmala Sitharaman responded to direct questions from Navika Kumar and said, why are non-BJP states inviting and giving contracts to Adani?
I don't want to have any view on it except that the regulators should act in time, and act to keep the market stable, act to keep India regulatory functions at its best. So whether it is the Reserve Bank or it's the SEBI, sitting in the finance ministry, my view would be that the regulators should be always on their toes. And that is where I would comment about what's got to be done.
Nowhere have the people of India lost any of those levels of sums that you have mentioned. The financial institutions have already clarified that their money is absolutely secure and safe. The two principal organizations, LIC and State Bank, have both come out with details. And I think it's a matter of a private company. A report which has been brought out by a foreign agency, based on which some of the allegations have been made. Whatever the regulators need to do, they will take appropriate action on that.
Now you've heard the whole host of reactions, but let's focus on what Nirmala Sitharaman said. And let's open this up. Karan Verma and Tehseen Poonawala, both political analysts, guests need no introduction. Now, good evening, both of you. Tehseen, let me begin by asking you, I'm sure you heard the interview, and if you've not, allow me to tell you what Nirmala Sitharaman said. When she was asked about the attack by opposition parties, including the Congress, she said, if Adani is such a crony capitalist, why are you legitimizing him by giving him contracts?
Thank you for having me on the show. And honestly, the problem in our country is both the government and the opposition. You ask about Peter, they'll talk about Paul. That's a problem. Let's focus on what the allegations are and what should be the response. Okay? First, I want to put this disclosure out that I think entrepreneurship is good and it should be encouraged. Second, this is not an attack on India, so let's stop hiding behind nationalism. Let's answer the questions, the relevant questions in those 88 questions, which Mr. Adani chose to respond to, and he responded to 62 out of the 88, and he didn't respond to some words. Was there A, insider trading? Did that lead to price rigging? Was his brother involved? Now, these are criminal offenses in any civilized democracy. You are pregnant or not pregnant. That is, you cannot be half pregnant. That cannot be the answer that he chooses not to answer that. I respect him. But then the institutions must answer to that. Everything else is immaterial, whether Mr. Adani is working in Gujarat, whether he's working in Rajasthan, whether he's working in Chhattisgarh, whether he's working in India or he's working in Israel. These are the specific questions to which both Karan and I, as Indian citizens, want answer. Just allow me 10 seconds more at the end. Why do we want answers? Because I believe firmly India is not a banana republic. Our institutions won't allow such a thing, and that's the answers we are seeking. Rest, everything else is immaterial. Just answer these questions and then forget the rest. That's
Karan, what would you say?
You know, first of all, I'm glad you invited Tehseen, because unlike many of the Congress spokespersons, Tehseen is progressive and he does respect the Indian entrepreneur. So it's good to have him. Now, let's come to the specifics. Pranesh, I see this as an attack on the Indian growth story, plain and simple, and I'll tell you why. Hindenburg research revels in the fact that a company sees a doomsday. It is facing inquiry by the Department of Justice in US. Now, such a company whose intention is very clear, the motive is clear, and is a dubious firm by its own records. They spread this facade about electric cars, which spelled doomsday temporarily for them. So, there the intention is clear. And secondly, very conveniently, Hindenburg Research Company conveniently deletes portions which involve judgments of our courts, of our appellate tribunals. I'll give you an example. Mr. Adani's brother-in-law, he did face a couple of investigations by the DRI, the Directorate of Revenue Intelligence. But the appellate tribunal gave an order in their favor, and it was further challenged in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court upheld the order of the appellate tribunal. SEBI has investigated 70 entities or people, including the promoters themselves. Hell, to be honest, Adani has even faced investigation from the Karnataka Lokayukt. I mean, you can do anything in this country but be a businessman. Otherwise, you'll have a flurry of litigations and ostracizations. But Adani has stood the test, and today, proudly, he stands amongst the richest people in the world. Now, this is something that Hindenburg cannot digest, and many of the foreign forces cannot digest. It's nothing new that Hindenburg has put that out. All of this is a part of the disclosures, whether it is SEBI, whether it is RBI. So why is some reckless company coming up with this, presses the panic button, and we see $100 billion, though much of it is notional wealth, $100 billion wiped off. If this is not an attack on the great Indian success story, the great Indian growth story, then what is? I would ask Tehseen that.
He's responding.
That's a very good argument, and I'm equally glad that Karan is there, because at least there'll be intellectual arguments for your viewers to see. So both Karan and I agree on one thing, that this particular research group is not the gold standard of research. We both agree on that. And where I disagree with Karan, and this is not an attack on India, only Adani. Look, Karan, to the questions on the earlier allegations on Mr. Adani or his family members, those have been answered, and I'm not going to that. What Mr. Adani has specifically not answered and gone behind nationalism is, were these 6 companies set up in Mauritius shell companies? Yes or no? Pregnant or not pregnant? A, B. Did they indulge in price rigging, and was there insider trading? These are criminal offenses in any democracy. Now, the answer to that is not that in the past I've got a clean chit. It is the current thing with the rate of stock market price. I still believe Mr. Adani is innocent until proven guilty. That is the law of the land, and it should be. But the answer, since Mr. Adani chose to answer the questions, he should have answered everything. Now, I still respect him that he didn't answer it. That's his right. But I don't like my India being called a banana public.
No. Being called names by whom? No. The question is also about the credibility of these people who are saying things, Tehseen. And just to give you a context of what Nirmala Sitharaman ji also said, she said that the opposition goes out, stands outside the parliament near the Gandhi statue and says that there is disruption, there is no debate. While they are the ones who come and disrupt parliament. They are running away from answers. We have all the answers.
No, listen. Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman, if she does not want to answer in Parliament, if opposition is obstructing her, can answer, or I don't even think the finance minister should answer, the SEBI chairman should answer specific questions, or the RBI should answer specific questions. Because Pranesh, like my country is not dubious where shell money can come in. But if these allegations are made, the questions are, was this shell company in one apartment in Abu Dhabi?
But does it not all boil down to the fundamental charge by the opposition? I don't mean to, no, I didn't mean to, cut you off. Tehseen, I just want to underline the fundamental charge. What is Congress saying? For instance, what is the left saying? What is the TMC saying? That here's a government trying to protect its friend. The FM says, why are they doing business with Mr. Adani?
Can I answer?
Pranesh, you will do business with whoever is investing. That is not the question. We are diverting. That's what I'm saying. Instead of Paul, we're talking about Peter. Let's focus on what is got to be market so scoop. No $300 billion company crashes because of the report. The report can be a trigger to crash. A report will not crash a $300 billion company, though some of that money is recovered, they know, understand? Because ultimately this is notional money. What is the question? The question is, was there insider trading and shell companies? These are legal criminal offenses. Yes or no? Somebody has to answer that question. Everything else
Karan Verma wants to come in. Yes.
Says, I'll just take 10 seconds more. The finance minister says LIC and SBI is stable. I agree it's stable. It's not going to crash. Opposition says LIC is going to crash. We are talking on issues that are not important. Is insider trading and price trading.
But she's also, in the same breath, Tehseen, she's also called out the fear mongering. Atank is the word used by Nirmala Sitharaman. Karan Verma.
You know, some of the allegations, Tehseen raised a couple of them. He talked about rigging the stock prices. Now, I was so surprised when Hindenburg put that out, that the promoters and many of them used shares as collaterals to raise capital, which they inferred was stock market manipulation. Now, this has been a standard practice for many years, where you pledge your shares to raise capital. I mean, the blatant misunderstanding of economics, basic economics by Hindenburg, their own argument actually kills them in the very womb when they say you cannot raise capital by pledging shares as collaterals. Hell, that has been the practice for, I mean, more than a decade now. So they don't get it right when they say stock market rigging. That is completely baseless. Another thing, he talked about insider trading. There are 70 such charges which were prosecuted, investigated time and again by SEBI itself. SEBI, our regulator, has given a clean sheet. So if there is anything, sure, we are not a banana republic. Tehseen is a famous litigant. He can raise this up in a court of law. He can file a petition. But we do not need a foreign research company which has its clear motivation in Adani stock falling. We don't want them to be our guiding light. We are not going to be guided by them. Their research report means junk to me, and even factually it means junk, because nothing that they have come up with is something that was not in the domain of SEBI, of ROC or RBI. All of these have been matters under investigation, and to be honest, Pranesh, in today's day and age, you can't hide anything. All of these are a part of their disclosures and prospectuses. All the 70 cases which have been prosecuted in the past, some of them insider trading, some of them shell companies,
and Tehseen,
all are in
I
the
don't know
public
whether
domain.
you heard that
So
bit
why
about, from
create
the
this
interview
panic?
or not. Nirmala Sitharaman also said that I don't want to undermine the claims or the charges made by the opposition. Let's have a discussion. I don't want to jump the gun. She said that. But then that bit on hypocrisy also followed. So let's play out what the finance minister told Times Now.
सवाल उठेगी. I am not objecting to सवाल being raised. I am repeatedly underlining the fact. आप आम इन्वेस्टर के ध्यान में रखते हुए प्रश्न पूछ रहे हैं. मैं repeatedly इस बात को I want to underline that when it comes to Department of Financial Services जो आप रेफर किया है, बैंकों के एक्सपोजर के ऊपर, इंश्योरेंस कंपनीज के एक्सपोजर के ऊपर, they themselves are coming out and speaking. These are from the horse's mouth you're hearing it, from the bank, from the insurance sector.
Now this is one part. Then there's a more detailed excerpt that we'll put out, and the interview also plays out again at 6 p.m. and then at 10 p.m. where the finance minister is saying that, look, I am not saying that everything is okay or something is wrong. If the opposition is raising some questions, we will have that probed, and the government regulators are independent. They are doing their job even as we speak. So Tehseen, who's jumping the gun?
Yes, yes.
1 second, Pranesh. What the Honorable Finance Minister said, I actually agree. I actually agree with what Karan said. Look, if this report, hypothetically, let's assume this report was about Tata because they want to kill the Indian growth story. SEBI would have come out, Pranesh, to you on Times Now, and said this report is junk. SEBI has not come out and said that, and that's what led to the notional loss of wealth so far. What I'm trying to say is, I believe Mr. Adani is innocent. I believe India is not a banana republic. I believe that these new charges could all be fake. I am not disagreeing with it. Though they are saying it's a forensic evidence in one house in Abu Dhabi, 6 companies are registered through which money came in. That's point number one. But somebody has to clarify. That's Karan, Pranesh, or the finance minister cannot. That either SEBI or RBI does, or Mr. Adani does. Because like Karan rightly said, everything's in public domain. There's forensic evidence either way of it. Point number two. I agree with Karan that pledging shares to raise capital has always been a practice. It's a gold standard. It should. The allegations are not made that he pledged shares. At what value he pledged is the allegations made, and that is what was the insider trading that raised the price of the shares.
Okay, let's have that.
Now,
Karan, do you want to respond to that?
I just have one line.
Okay,
just one line,
okay.
and then Karan, this one. I absolutely want to tell the viewers of Times Now, do not panic. LIC, SBI, Indian banks are robust. They won't break. But for Indian success story, for Karan and my story, we need that SEBI comes out and says, give the clean chit. Let it do it. And we want that. That's what we expect as taxpayers.
Karan, quickly.
You know, Tehseen makes a valid point when he says that SEBI could have come out and made a clarification. Yes, they could have. They could have perhaps handled this better. But in no way does this give any credibility to this research firm, because none of what they've come up with is something that wasn't known to us. SEBI and even Adani, for that matter, they could have come up with a far more prompt response. And I think this is a lesson for the Indian growth story, that we can be vulnerable. Our panic button can be pressed by a dubious report. So I think it's a wake-up call for the future, that without understanding the fundamentals, so many people, so many rumors were spread. LICs will erode your wealth. SBI has an overexposure. All of this proved to be false. And I think the shares are also now recovering. And I would like to believe this is a phase that has passed by.
Okay.
And at the same time, I would, as an Indian citizen, I would want complete transparency in matters.
Okay. On
Of
that
corporate
note,
governance.
gentlemen, Karan Verma, Tehseen Poonawalla, let's leave it at that for the moment. We will, of course, discuss this as we go along on the back of this super interview with Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. That's coming up at 6. Taking a quick break. Stay with Times Now.